You really don't think Orlando should be in this tier, huh?
No, and talk to Magic fans. They don't believe they should either. They're trying to make their plan.
So they're 3 games back of the
pivot, but they're trying to make the plan.
They're but they could also easily be sellers here. They're 3 games back of the Bulls, and it's not only that. So it's weird because there's 2 teams that separate them from 10th right now. So it's the Bulls are in 10th, then the Raptors, then the Wizards, then the Magic. So but 3 games, but 2 teams in between them. But at the same time, they're also only 3.5 back of the Hawks, who are in 9th. So it's like they're not just gunning for one final play-in spot. It's like 3 teams that are in the race for both of those, or 5 teams, I should say, in the race for those 2 play-in spots. I'm going to be presumptuous and say that the Knicks and the other teams in the 8 and above are kind of feeling pretty good about that. Anyway.
Oh, good to say, huh?
It did feel good to say. It did. It really did. Fine. So let's leave. So our order is Rockets 30. Let's do Hornets 29, Pistons 28, Spurs 27. I'm going to put the Magic 25. Or what? 26. 26. Completing this tier. So this is my tier of like they could still very much pivot towards Wemby. Here are the teams in this tier for me. You tell me if there's anyone I'm putting in here that should not be in here, or if I'm not putting anybody that should.
To clarify, Orlando's in that bottom tier for you?
No, they're in the next. I'm agreeing with you. They're in
the very bottom of the next tier. I got you.
Yes,
I agree.
Okay. I'm just starting off the next tier. So okay. So the teams in this now can pivot towards Wemby. Washington.
Yes.
Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting Utah here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm putting Utah here because since December 1st, the Jazz are actually, their net rating isn't that bad. They're 8-12 since December 1st, but they only have a slightly negative net rating in that time. So maybe it's a little unfair of me to put them this low, but this feels like where they should be because they can still pivot to Wemby. I don't. So the team that the 2 teams I'm debating are the Bulls and the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on them, or about whether they should be in this tier or not?
The Hawks, no. The Bulls, yes.
The complicating part here, and we've talked about the Bulls draft pick. I definitely on the regular pod, but like, so again, that pick has to land in the top 4 for them to. You know what? I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to say they should not be in this tier because they have played well recently. I know they've lost 2 in a row, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. Over their last 6 games, over the last 2 weeks, they're 4-4, but 4-4 with the 9th best net rating in the league over those 2 weeks. They're plus 3.3. They have the 8th best offense and the 15th best defense. So they've had some nice wins. Since December 1st, the Bulls are 16th in net rating. They're 10-11 since December 1st, just slightly negative net rating. On the season, they are 20th with a slightly negative net rating. I think they've put it together enough. So they're not in this tier for me, and the Hawks aren't in this tier for me.
But that's not the tier. It's the considering pivoting and
I think they have righted the ship enough, and because if the draft pick situation was differently, that would change my mind.
What do you mean?
If the pick was top 10 protected,
okay,
I would say fine.
They're currently they're tied for 7th for the 7th best odds to get in the top 4.
Yeah, and they're currently in the play-in in the East.
But that's a Hornet fallacy. The Hornets made the play-in last year and had the 9th pick and that's whatever, the 8th, the pick in the draft. And like, okay, you made the play-in. Like, this is where the pivot conversation.
And this year, if they get that pick, it goes to Orlando.
But that's
because
my point.
It's not their.
So that's my point, is that because making the play-in, there's not enough of a benefit to make the play-in. You're better off pivoting to try and increase your lottery odds so you end up in the top 4. Isn't that the tier we're discussing? This is we are discussing.
To me, it is. There is a certain implied reasonableness to, like, the tank is the obvious choice for them, for the people in this tier, for the teams in this tier. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
If that's the,
like, so it's staring in the face.
I'm not 100% sure Minnesota's, not Minnesota, Washington's there. Then.
Oh, see, I think with how they've performed. See, they're granted they had a nice little winning streak of late, but again, they kind of started the season off okay, and since December 1st, different story for them. They're 7-13 since December 1st. They have a negative.
They have 1. a 10-game losing streak in the middle of there.
Yeah,
that mucks up what. But like, if you
but if you're capable of losing 10 straight games in the NBA.
This is their injuries have killed them. They lost Beal for a while. They lost Porzingis,
and Beal's still out.
Porzingis is day to day. Well, Beal, it's a complicated thing because he's day to day, but he like came back in the game that Giannis scored 55, and then My point is, it's just an injury question.
Listen,
they also want to make.
Okay, fine.
They're one game behind Chicago.
I'm picking Knicks here. They've had enough injuries. KP is. Apologies to him. He's a walking injury concern, even though he's in all-star consideration this year. No, they're in this tier. My team out of Toronto, Washington, Orlando, Oklahoma City, and Utah.
You're putting Toronto here, but not Chicago?
Yeah, I am. Because I think again, maybe it's only in my mind that this makes sense, but if Toronto wants to, and I understand there's been a lot said about this, there's been articles written about this in recent days and weeks about how it's easier to say sell pieces, pivot to the tank than it is to actually execute. That being said, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you have Masai Ujiri at the top of your organization, I'm pretty sure they could figure out a way to get good value for guys like Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, if they wanted to go in that direction. And I think that matters. And I think they are close enough to the bottom right now. And I understand. I think they've won 3 in a row? Yeah, they've won 3 in a row. So listen, maybe if we do this podcast a week from now, maybe they're not in this tier anymore. But for right now, I'm still going to put them here.
Okay.
They're not my team in this tier. Neither is Utah or OKC or Orlando. I guess by default that has to be Washington because, because you're in this in between place where you have all this money invested in Bradley Beal, and they're probably the least of the teams that we're going to talk about today. But it is still notable to me that again, you're a team that on one hand can make a pretty easy pivot towards tanking this year. But on the other hand, it's like not that you went all in, but like you traded for Will Barton this summer. He's not in your rotation anymore.
Yeah.
You have potentially expiring Kristaps Porzingis. You have expiring Kyle Kuzma. Are you thinking like, I want to trade these players now to get something for them? Or are you thinking, my God, I hope we can re-sign Kristaps Porzingis for the next 5 years. And then the moment the ink is dry on that contract, or 4 years, are you like, oh my God, what do we do? Like they're just in a really not great spot as an organization. And when you look at the fact that they, unlike the other teams I just mentioned, Oklahoma City, Utah, Orlando, and Toronto, all of those teams have like young or young-ish talent that is legitimately worth getting excited about. Yes, I consider Lauri Markkanen a young-ish talent. The Wizards don't have that.
No, they don't. I don't mean to rehash this, so we can move on. Just
you're not getting off this. Wow. Okay.
You just described the Chicago Bulls.
The draft pick thing is a big difference.
But that's my point, is that yes, they don't have their pick, but that's even more of an incentive to increase your lottery odds. Like to sell off pieces, to shut Zach LaVine down with some undisclosed injury, like the Blazers did with Dame last year.
Realistically, because they are. Hold on, it pays to get specific with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They are 8.5 games behind. I'm using behind in air quotes here because they are ahead, but 8.5 games behind the Pistons and the Hornets, which means they are how many games behind? They're even more behind the Rockets, right? And so I guess the Spurs are the ones that they're closest to.
Yeah.
So how many games behind the Spurs are there? 6 plus.
There's 6 games behind.
6 games behind the Spurs.
Yes.
I don't know if there is a realistic way for them to get to better than the 5th best lottery odds. And if they get to the 5th best lottery odds, that means they will have a
42% chance of getting in the top 4.
Their pick. 42% chance?
Yes. Which is different than right now where they have a 23% chance.
So that means that they would more than halfway into the season willingly be like, we are a talented team. We are a team that was built to win now. And we are going to completely throw any chance that, hey, maybe we get into the play-in. Maybe we even get up to like the 8 or 9 seed. Maybe we win a play-in game or 2. Maybe we put a little scare into a team in the first round, come out of the season feeling really good about ourselves, moving forward, all kinds of like get the positivity back. We're going to throw all that out the window for at best a 4-10 chance of keeping our pick. I don't think that they could do that at this point.
I think that's admitting the reality of where you are, because the path you laid out is something I don't see. Like it's also can backfire in the way it had for the Hornets the last.
Why is that nuts?
Because I think they're a better team.
He's playing out of his mind.
Yes, he has, and they're 19-23.
They're they're better of late. They're a lot better than the Wizards have been late.
The Wizards are 6-4 in their last 10. The Bulls are 5-5 in their last 10. I understand you're going to go to the net rating and say that the difference is, but I literally just watched the Bulls play the Wizards.
I know, and the Wizards won that game.
Goodness.
No, you're right. That was a good comeback.